Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to another edition of Fridays with Sandy. That would be Sandy Kreisberg,
Hey there.
hbsguru.com, one of the leading MBA admission consultants. And if you have Harvard on your target list, I don't think you can do better than Sandy.
Thank you.
And we have, all the way from Georgia in the former Soviet Union, a candidate for 6 schools, including Harvard and Wharton and Booth and Kellogg and Columbia. A really interesting candidate. His name is
Okay.
Levon
Levon, why don't you introduce yourself?
Bashivin. Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Levon
Good.
from Georgia, Tbilisi, Georgia. I'm turning in live here. Currently a consultant at Deloitte here and a local firm. And I actually spent my undergraduate years in US. So
Good.
I'm not too unfamiliar with the scene.
Okay, for all you folks out there, this is going to be a valuable mock interview, particularly if you are an international student, particularly if you work for a big 3 auditing firm, and particularly if you want to make this transition from maybe auditing or big 3 to more strategic consulting. So we're going to ask Levon a lot of questions along those lines because he is all of those things. So let me just get it underway. A question that they would ask a guy like you off the bat, they would say, what do you want your classmates to know about Georgia in the CIS?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Georgia is a great country with a lot of potential. Currently, if you're looking at business-wise, there's a big hydropower plant construction boom happening. Everyone hydropower plants because of very good energy laws. Can you not hear me?
We had a little trouble. Are you more clear now?
Yeah, I can hear it well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Lance, that last answer was a little garbled. So let's start it again. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want your classmates to know about Georgia?
Sure. Well, Georgia right now, business-wise, has a lot of potential. First of all, there's a huge boom in hydropower plant construction.
Good.
So a lot of companies are trying to get in on that. Second of all, it's making great strides in terms of tourism. It's growing by magnitudes each year. And third of all, it's a great place for winter sports. It really has 2 major skiing resorts.
Good. How hard is it for a foreigner to start a business in Georgia?
It's not too hard. Actually, Georgia is ranked in top 10 in ease of starting business. Foreigners can start businesses without problems. Actually, a lot of people from neighboring states, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Armenia, are starting their businesses here because of the legislature, and they're finding it quite easy.
Okay, you're answering these questions pretty good, and my guess is you'd be better if we didn't have this technical spaghetti in the way. I mean, I think if you were in person, you'd sound more relaxed. But your answers are good. You're not getting lost. You're hitting the high points. So those are things to keep in mind. If you're an international student, particularly from a less popular country, they often do ask this question of what do you want your classmates to know about your country, and you had a good answer for that. What would be unexpected if I visited Georgia? What would I be surprised by? I've never been there, and I rarely leave Cambridge, Massachusetts.
You'd be surprised by the amount of crazy drivers, I would say.
Ha,
It's
that's a good
unreal.
answer.
Yeah.
That's an excellent answer because it's true and it's unexpected and it's real. So that's a good one. Okay, now this is interesting. This would also come up given your background. You were born where?
In Georgia.
And then you somehow went to Brandeis
Yeah.
as an undergraduate? Okay, so they might start with that. They say, let's talk about Brandeis. Tell me about your decision to go to Brandeis. How did that even get on your radar?
I wanted to continue my studies abroad, especially in US. I didn't know specifically what I wanted to study or whether I wanted to stay there or come back. So I chose schools which were academically very robust.
Let me interrupt you.
Which would,
you're not off to a good answer. This is an important question. It's one that we've asked everyone in this format, and nobody's ever done it well. The way you start this answer is, I went to high school at X. And can you take it from there?
Yeah. So I went to high school in Georgia. The high school was actually specialized in sending people abroad. It was American Academy in Tbilisi. So all the instruction.
Right?
Yeah.
The fact that you went to an internationally focused high school explains
all the instruction was done in English. So,
good. Okay. So this makes it less exotic.
And all the instructions were done in English. They prepared you for SATs. They had the college counseling.
Okay, so
they had all the college counseling done.
Good.
And I chose.
See, this is let me interrupt. This is This is a case where you're making your trip to Brandeis or trip to America, you're demystifying it. In some ways, you're making it less of an accomplishment, given that you went to this high school.
Yeah.
All of that is outweighed by the fact that you're being honest, that the answer you're giving now makes sense, and that the interviewer understands it. If you had gone on talking about, why I went to Brandeis, I was interested in internationalism, I looked at schools, and you hadn't mentioned this, and then it came up later, the interviewer would be very disappointed that you hadn't mentioned this first. This is an important general point. Given the choice between bragging and explaining, John Byrne, what do you do?
You don't explain.
No, you do explain.
Why?
You don't brag. Because the interviewer doesn't like to be snookered, that's why. What the purpose of the interview is to see whether you can give honest answers, not whether you can turn something in your resume to a brag point, particularly about major things like why you went to Brandeis. Okay, Levin, they might say, did you experience, this is a popular question. It's a question, if you're keeping score at home, you could say, fill in the blank. Did you experience culture shock at Brandeis?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I did my first 2 years. I couldn't tell
what kind?
Well, it was mostly just how people interacted and every day casually. There was not like no friends for life commitment. That's more usual in Georgia, where you have some really good friends and that's it. And there was everything.
This is
in college, it's more like, hey,
this is an experimental circumstances. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not giving a good answer. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You're just not
lost somewhere.
Yeah, you lost your train of thought. A good answer, like culture shock, is an answer you should prepare for.
Mm-hmm.
You go, yeah, the three things were different. There were crazy drivers, things were more casual, and boy, people were just more intimate quickly. People, you meet
Mm-hmm.
somebody for lunch and they'd tell you all about their family and the fact that their father was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
That never happens in Georgia, even though many fathers are alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a while to find out. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yes.
No, you hit the point.
I thought so. Yeah. Okay. Here's another question.
I just want to say something.
Yeah.
That's an interesting convention because you've used this before, Sandy, where instead of just giving an answer and maybe floundering around, you say there are three things, and then it's just 1, 2, 3, and you're out of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to structure every answer, and you don't even have to say there are three things.
Yeah.
You just go, oh, culture shock. Boy, first thing, I was surprised by crazy drivers. Second thing, people just became very intimate very quickly. And the third thing was there were a lot of rich kids from New York. That's a good answer. That's a perennial answer. And I believe it's true at Brandeis. I had known rich kids in Russia, and I had known a few people from New York, but I never put them together before. So, a lot of my early experience at Brandeis was learning about the therapeutic backgrounds of a lot of New Yorkers who had spent their summers all over Europe. Good.
But it's funny, when you say there are 2 or 3 things, you immediately sit up straight and you want to hear them all.
Yeah, that's true. And even if you get stuck, you can go, well, I can't even think of the third thing, but I'll send you an email. That would get you out of it too. Okay, so you go to Brandeis. What did you do the summers there, Levon?
Well, first 2 summers, I came back home and interned at local companies.
Yeah, what was that like?
It was a lot less intense than internships in America. First of all, it was, well, in retrospect, looking back, I know the first 2 summers here were much more relaxed, just going in and out, helping out, not to worry about a lot of things. I guess it's just the work culture differences. And that was the main point from there.
So then what was your first internship with a US company?
Well, my first internship was my junior year summer, where I worked for a small startup company, helping with business development and just general finance.
Okay. Let me just make this point. It helps to be specific unless there's a reason for confidentiality. You should say, I worked for the XYZ company. They were located in Boston and they did this and this. So see if you could do that. Okay.
I worked for a company called Howler, which was founded in Boston. The company did digital marketing, used a lot of iBeacons to attract customers and collect data. And there at Howler, I was helping out with business development and just financial management.
So what background did you have for that? How did you find, tell me about that experience and try and include what background you had for that, what you liked about it, what you were effective at, what you needed to learn.
Well, my background was in a college in business and economics. So I had a good financial background in terms of theoretical knowledge.
Well, how did you get hired?
I applied online. I actually had a quite thorough job search, applied to many companies, had few offers, chose the one I thought would teach me the most.
Yeah. Why do you think they hired you?
I think my profile matched with what they were looking for in terms of someone that would be able to do a lot of different things, because it was a startup and all hands on deck were needed.
Good. And then what were some of the highlights of that summer? Well,
the highlights was I was responsible for a lot of accounts, where I would go in cold call, just walk into stores, try to find new customers to sign up.
Yikes.
And yeah,
You mean,
and
is this business to business or retail stores?
business to business.
Give me an example of that.
So we would need to get different stores on board to use our app. So I would go into, it's a random store that sells something, a brick and mortar store. And I would
like
tell
at a
them,
shopping mall or?
yeah, not in a mall, but something on maybe on Newbury Street. You know, there are a lot of smaller shops.
Right.
So something like that.
Yikes.
I would go in.
That's
yeah.
pretty amazing. So you're actually doing cold calling.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, so what was that like? You get a lot of doors slammed in your face? They say, get out of here.
Yeah, it was terrifying because
Newbury Street, you know, they're not too nice to people.
Yeah, I don't really like sales and I don't like cold calling. So it was a pretty harsh experience, but I think.
Were you on commission?
No, I was an unpaid intern.
That helps.
But it was good learning because selling is one skill that everybody needs. Even if you go in consulting, higher up, it's all selling.
Yeah. What did you, how many sales did you make, if any?
Well, by the end, I had around 50 accounts, which signed up for the app, which was pretty nice. And then I had to handle them all.
What did the app do?
So the app kind of sent out different notifications to people with iPhones who had interests on Facebook on different things. So, for example, you're interested in sweaters and you pass by the sweater shop that you didn't notice before, the shop would be able to send you a notification or a coupon or a discount, and then you would walk into the store.
That's scary.
Yeah.
So in order to get the app, so you were selling the stores on this app, which would then sneak into people's phones.
Yeah, so not to consumers, but to the partners, I would say. So stores would be our partners, and then people downloading would be the consumers.
Good. Okay, let me ask you some general questions. Who was the best manager you ever worked for?
The best manager.
Very common question.
That's a tough question because I have two. Can there only be one I worked for?
If you know, start with one. Yeah.
Okay, so I would give her the edge.
Let me just give some general advice here. In an actual interview, you don't want the most honest answer. You want an answer that's workable.
Okay.
So don't double think things. If they say, what's the best manager you ever worked for? Just pick one. Pick one who is easy to explain. They're not going to send out investigators.
Okay, then I would structure it a bit differently. The best manager I worked for was my first full-time job manager at Greenwald Partners.
Good. What made him a good manager?
He was, even though he was very busy, he would always take time to explain to you. He would not just swamp you with grunt work and take time to develop you, to teach you things that could help you in your career.
Good. Okay, this is a very common question, very common follow-up question. What's the best thing he ever said to you?
The best thing he ever said to me? The best thing he ever said to me was, you need to be flawless in your work so I can rely on you.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What gave birth to that remark?
Well, there was one particular assignment I didn't do too well. I had several careless mistakes, and this was kind of his, well, he both reprimanded me for it and then gave me his vote of confidence saying that I know that you can do better. I need you to do better because I have to hand off more and more stuff to you.
That's the answer. The answer is the best thing he ever said to me he said a lot of complimentary things, but the best thing he ever said was when I was a little bit sloppy. And he said, I need, you're great. You could do better. I need you to have a higher reliability so I can trust you.
Is that really a good idea? Because he's also bringing to the forefront
That he handed
an
in a
issue.
sloppy assignment?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're not going to our business school. You once handed in a sloppy assignment.
I love the honesty in the remark, but I wonder if that's,
As far as honesty goes, that's acceptable. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
If you said, oh, the best thing he ever said to me was when he bailed me out, from my drunken driving arrest and said, I know the best drunk driving lawyers in Massachusetts will beat this rap and forget about that baby you ran over. That's the best thing he ever said to me. Okay. I wouldn't say that. John, if you were honest in that question.
For the record,
yes.
The work I handed was not too sloppy. It was sloppy, but not like end of the world sloppy.
Right. Okay. This is an important issue. If you can admit to weaknesses in the interview, that can be very powerful. Allow me to say the answer I gave was, presented in the correct format is a very powerful answer. One of the values of getting these things on video is the viewers get to see both sides of it. Now, have you ever interviewed people, Levon, for jobs?
I interviewed a couple recently.
Yeah. So how do you find this experience? I mean, you found interviewing those people revelatory, right?
To be honest, I had more passive role because it was a group interview.
I see.
And I was one of the interviewers, but yeah.
You could see how, once you're on the other side of the table, you see how transparent interviews are.
Yes.
So that's one of the values of this little exercise we're doing, that for people out there who haven't had the experience of ever interviewing people, they'll see through you the same way you're seeing through Levon. Thank you for being a guinea pig. Okay.
And I would add that if you have a lot of experience being interviewed yourself, you can see it more clearly, like all the tricks that the interviewee might be up to.
Yes, that's true too. What's your first choice? Give me the case for an MBA. Why an MBA? You said that very few people in Georgia and Deloitte in Georgia go for MBAs. Why do you want an MBA? Did you hear that? You're with us? Yeah. Levon? Okay. Slow transmission. The satellite is slowing down.
And things that I want to get out here. Yeah. Okay. Should I continue?
We had a little trouble hearing you. So let's start this again. Tell me why you want to go to Columbia.
Well, I want to go to Columbia for an MBA. It's more general. It's because I think I need more leadership skills. I think I developed all the technical side I needed. Well, not perfectly, but I'm pretty good. And number two, I want to transition into strategy consulting with one of the big three MBB firms, McKinsey, Bain, BCG. And since they don't have offices in Georgia, I think going for an MBA and then transitioning to them somewhere else is the best possible route for me.
Okay, that's a good answer for why MBA in general.
Mm-hmm.
For you folks out there at home, you should have a personal. The important thing is having a personalized answer to this YX school. You go, You know, and a good way to start this answer about why Columbia, why Harvard is, I visited Harvard, I spoke to people there, and I sat in on a class, and all three of those convinced me of what I had read about it, that it would be the kind of experience that would be valuable to me. This program would be valuable to me. You know, my goal is to transition from a accounting background to a strategic consulting background, and I think the X experience could help me do that. So it's good to personalize that answer, okay? Let me ask you another frequent question. What do you think is going to be hard for you at school X? What's going to be hard for you at Columbia? Besides managing your time. Ha ha.
Well, specifically at Columbia, I would say it would be hard for me to quickly get acquainted with the networking heavy aspect of the school. Because of its location in NYC, I think that Columbia students are expected to network very heavily, and networking is not.
This is not a good answer. Why is that going to be hard?
Well, networking is not as prominent in Georgia as it is in US, so there would be some adjusting period.
That's dangerous. It would make it indicates that you're fearful of making friends, which is a no-no.
Yeah.
And that's not a good, you know, that's not an acceptable no-no. That's something that would take seriously.
Okay.
Sure. And since it's so important, they might say, well, how do you plan to catch up? You know, it's kind of networking is one of those things, you know, yeah, it kind of happens right away. And then, you know, there's those other guys sitting alone at lunch, you know,
yeah.
And that's the way they stay for the rest of the 2 years.
So what's a better answer? Is it getting acclimated to a big city like New York?
You go being distracted. That's a version of managing my time. Trying to, I would turn that answer on the head. I would say, I might do too much networking. I'd be so excited by all the possibilities that I might network too much and let my coursework, you know, slide a little bit. That might be hard for me. Or if there is something hard for you, you might go, I think courses that require a paper might be hard for me because, you know, even though my English is pretty good, writing a long paper is something that is maybe a little more difficult for me than a native speaker. Okay, I would call that an acceptable admission. Or, yeah, paying for it. Or getting, you know, competing for, deciding between summer jobs might be hard because I might be tempted to, you know, want to go back to Europe or CIS countries rather than stay in America. So that would be a hard decision. That's all acceptable BS. Those are, believe me, those are not wonderful answers, but they're passable answers. It's like a question, what do you think your strengths and weaknesses are? Let's start with the weaknesses. Levon, you there?
Yeah. To start with the weaknesses, I would say number one, I need to be more proactive in delegating work team. I have to take into my hands development of other guys, and because I'm kind of inexperienced in that, I think sometimes I have issues with delegating relevant work to relevant people.
That's a good answer.
Something I'm working on.
Yeah, that's a good answer, because that is something that's true. People your age, your level, don't have a lot of experience delegating, so I have to learn how to delegate. That's a very, very good answer, and it works for everybody. Good one. Can you think of another one? You're on a roll.
Thanks. For weakness,
Yeah.
I would say this is somehow generic, but it is honest. Because I'm fearful of making a really bad mistake, I tend to recheck my work countless times, even though my Excels are laced with formulas that will not be, wouldn't have a mistake.
Nah, that's not a good. That's a nerdy
So that
answer.
sometimes,
You
yeah.
were
Okay, but
you started off with a very
yeah,
good answer, which is what you go. I might need to take more risks because
yeah,
I haven't been put in an opportunity to do that. Even though I took a big risk coming to America as a businessman, I'm probably too risk averse. It's
yeah.
partially the training and partially the culture I work in. So that's
That
a
is
good answer.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the third one is I could eat better, to tell you the truth. cut back on those carbs. I'm a sucker for sweets. That's a real weakness. That's an acceptable third one.
You know, Sandy, one thing you didn't explore is this current job. And isn't that one of the most common questions during an interview?
Yes, yes. Good point. I thought we did do a little bit of his job. Yeah. Well, tell me about what you like and dislike about your job.
Well, starting from what I like, first of all, this is one of the best jobs in terms of development because it's such a huge company with so many resources. You learn a lot every day.
Well, tell me what
Second
you
of
do.
all,
Walk me. This is a good question. Walk me through. Tell me what you do. You say advisory consulting, focusing on strategy, feasibility. Yikers. What do you do?
Yeah. I'm an advisory consultant in the department. Because the department is small, I'm doing both strategy consulting and financial advisory. So that means I do everything starting from strategic advice to M&A, due diligence advisory, and forensic investigation.
Who are your typical clients? If you can
my
name
typical
them,
clients,
please do. But if not, just tell us generically.
I cannot name them due to confidentiality, but they're your run-of-the-mill typical multinational corporations and large Georgian corporations. So mostly in energy, banking, oil and gas, and manufacturing.
And mostly what you do is due diligence? Could you explain you've put that, it's all over your resume. Could you explain what that means to
due diligence, due diligence is so when one company wants to buy another company, or if one company wants to sell, so it's both buy side and sell side. They hire you, a big four consulting firm, to check their target, the company they want to buy. So by checking the target, they mean, do they have a problem in terms of generating profits in their cash, in their balance sheet? Will they continue to make profit once they sell their company to us
those are
and they're
great
no
questions.
longer the
How
owners?
do you get those answers?
Well, first thing, we check their financial reporting, check if everything is in order, if there's some
here's a situation. Yeah, you're giving an answer. You're giving an answer that is accurate. If it were written down and appeared on a blog, someone would go, "Yep, that's what due diligence is." What you want to do is say to someone who doesn't understand it, due diligence. It's like pretend you're buying a house. Okay, due diligence would be calling in a termite inspector. It would be calling in a guy to look at the chimney. It would be calling in a guy to look at the plumbing. And you would walk around the neighborhood at different times of day to make sure what kind of neighborhood it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing all those things that examine the major components of what you're buying.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, what that
Sure.
means is, companies have financial reports, but we would get behind them. We would interview people at the company and we would go, okay, man, one of those, there's a name for that that I'm not going to say. One of those, what's up with these numbers? What's up with these numbers? What's the proof of this?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very intense process where you just try and, due diligence. It's more like, I'm going to beat you up and make sure you're not lying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. What have you ever found? Give me an example of a diligence that's uncovered stuff.
Well, for one major banking transaction, we found that a lot of bonds were tied up in a Russian bank that had its license taken away and were basically worse than junk. So we reported that. We also found out, mostly what we find is numbers that should be taken out of revenue. So we found a huge expense that is related to a friend. So once the company sold, that friend will not give you the service for free or discount. So you have to pay much more for that service going forward. So that's something you would say.
How shocking. Yeah, but wow. How shocking was that?
Well, the first one about the bonds, that was pretty shocking because it also involved some government members. And we were all like whispering in our room, hopefully we won't be killed. And the second one, second one is pretty common in due diligence. So you always find like expenses or revenues that will just go away once the transaction is done because a friend is doing them, or your cousin is buying a bunch of your stuff and you're passing it off as revenue. Yeah.
Good.
So we've run out of time.
Good.
Which actually leads to a question. If you're being interviewed by an MBA admissions officer and the clock is running and you're running out of time, how do you neatly tie up the package to finish it in the event that you're kind of just, you feel like I don't feel like there's an end.
A closure.
Mock interview.
Yes. A good way. Look, for purposes of this exercise, I'm not trying to wrap it up. I just want to get stuff out there.
Right.
We can edit it. It's all, the piece, each question and answer is valuable. It doesn't lead to something. There's no superstructure.
So does the candidate need to kind of wrap it up?
Well, if the candidate, usually it's the job of the interviewer to wrap it up. But very often what the interviewer says, okay, Levon, here's the question. We've run out of time. What is there something else you want me to know? That's often a very annoying final question.
Levon, what would you say to that?
We've run out of time. What else do you want me to know?
Yeah. Well, I want you to know that if I'm lucky to be part of this school, I will bring a lot of dedication and a lot of teaching on my part to my fellow class members.
Okay, that's acceptable. Maybe an answer like, I hope I've, I'm very excited about, I hope I've made clear how excited I am about your program, and I want you to know that, if admitted, I'm going to come and, I really believe I'm going to be a valuable member of the class. It's just such an exciting opportunity to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
great
way to finish.
That's great. Well, I think that's a wrap. Levon, hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Levon.
Thank you.
For being a guinea pig this week. Sandy, thank you.
And getting through these technical problems.
Yeah, I think that there's some power issues out in Georgia that cause some disruption here and there, but I think we pretty much got it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. This was a great experience. Mm-hmm.
Levon,
Bye.
good luck to you. Good luck in your applications and in your job at Deloitte. And I don't know if you've taken the GMAT yet, have you?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, okay. Did you do well?
Yeah, I did
You're gonna
well
take
for
it again,
first
I
time.
bet.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
did.
to be continued. Let us know
Yeah,
how you make out there.
Yeah, good
I
luck
will.
to you.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone out there for watching. This is Fridays with Sandy, every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sandy is up at his palatial estate in Boston, ready to go to it. You know, we've now done
my
three
home
mock
in
interviews in a
my
row.
home in Chestnut Hill. Yes, okay.
We've done 3 mock interviews in a row, and we'll see what we'll do next week. We may do a mock interview. We actually may do a live handicapping your MBA
Wow,
odds.
great.
We'll see. And if you're interested in doing this, let us know. Write in, and maybe you'll get a shot at Sandy yourself. Thanks for watching.